So a few days ago, a buddy of mine was going through r/Halo and he saw this post. Why can't Halo players be more like Deep Rock Galactics? The people I meet online are, compared to DRGs, utterly unreliable and have zero sense of teamwork. What's the deal? Teamwork in DRG comes totally naturally, like leaving foam platforms so your team can safely jump down, etc. That's a really good question, one that has no end of possible answers. But one of those may very well be that Halo, unlike DRG, isn't a conducive environment for team play. Now, that sounds like a hot take, but let me explain. Take a moment to really think about the Halo multiplayer design. Even starts, curated maps, set weapon spawns, more or less, and a dedicated end goal. What's not to work with your team on, right? But that's the catch, isn't it? Your team. Barring one major exemption, your team in an average match of Halo, be it Slayer, CTF, King of the Hill, is as much in competition with the other team as they are with themselves. See, there's limited power items and such to go around, and everyone knows that, which is what leads to that mad scramble for the sniper or rockets, the rush to the vehicles, and all the team killing that went down in the past is a side effect of some player being salty that someone beat them to whatever item they wanted. It also leads to players being very quick to use up the power they've acquired, because there's no telling when an enemy, or a teammate for that matter, will come along and take it from them by force. The fact that other players can so easily bring an end to the use of power weapons or vehicles would also explain why there are a lot of players who don't really know how to use them. Some are self-explanatory, like rockets. Others are high skill, high reward, like snipers. And even things like the Warthog and Scorpion tank and other vehicles take some practice to get used to. And it's not practice that comes easily when that happens. A lot. Or that, for that matter. That was a betrayal, by the way. In short, Halo is a competitive game. Ooh, okay, hold on. That came out wrong. Kind of. I know I'm kicking a beehive here, but just let me elaborate on this one. Basically, there was this dev interview that came out a while ago for Halo Infinite, and they said Halo's a competitive game.
We are a very competitive game. That's our DNA. That's who we are, right? You go back all the way to the very first Halo, right? Multiplayer. I mean, it is a highly competitive game.
And it set the community into an utter frenzy, debating each other over whether Halo is meant to be a casual game or a competitive game. But what they were referring to there was whether it should be more focused on casual modes and asymmetric, interesting maps and fun and stuff like that, or high-stakes, esports-ready team v team matches. But there's the exemption I was talking about. Esports teams. Esports teams are on comms with each other. They're calling targets, coming up with plans, and trying to outfox the other team. That situation, be it in esports or in a Discord call with your friends, is when Halo truly benefits from teamwork. But with randoms, you're playing in a space where there is a few set power items and everyone wants them. The way it's set up, only a few players are going to have them at any given time. You also get those types who only care about top fragging every game, who will ignore objectives and focus on kills or whatever else make their stats look good, which, that's another factor, stats. A lot of players view those stats as a measure of their value as players, with higher ratings meaning they are, overall, better than someone with lower ratings. Things like KDR still carry quite a bit of weight, and in Halo's in-game scoreboard, that's a good way to know who's carrying, who's average, and who's feeding in any given match. And at the end of the match, how your team did doesn't really carry as much weight as your own personal performance. Putting yourself above your team is often a good way to ensure you come out with better numbers post-match, and if you keep doing that, long-term. So, in a nutshell really, TLDR, Halo's a game that is competitive. Everyone's competing for limited, high-value resources, both against the other team and against their own. So how does Deep Rock Galactic compare? Well, for starters, it's a very different kind of shooter. A 4-player, class-based co-op horde survival shooter, to be precise. Once you even take a quick look at how it's built, the answer for player teamwork psychology becomes pretty clear. For starters, you play as one of 4 different classes of dwarf, each with their own kit. For the uninitiated, those classes are Gunner, Driller, Engineer, and Scout. Each class has their own dedicated set of weapons that no other class has access to, which grants them all varying levels of power in combat, from high single target damage to heavy crowd control and everything in between. Their equipment is also class-based, with Scout being the only one who can single-handedly light up caverns, zip around by a grappling hook to often annoyingly high-up stuff, that kind of thing. NG has a platform gun that can be used to make staircases, fall paths, and bridges to make getting around the caverns easier, and sentries to help fight off the waves of bugs. Driller, as his name implies, can drill tunnels and trenches all over the place, as well as throw remote detonation high explosive charges to clear terrain or deal massive AoE damage. And Gunner can launch long-range zip lines to get across large chasms, while also placing down bubble shields that stop projectiles, scare most enemies away, and regenerates the team's shields while they're standing inside. All this eliminates the interplayer squabbling over equipment, and even players who play selfishly will inherently help their team. The Scout, who lights up a cavern for themselves, benefits any other player in the area, and Drillers, Angies, and Gunners who drill tunnels, build bridges or platforms, and set up zip lines for themselves have also made them accessible to the team. Plus, being a lone wolf can also be very dangerous. The more players that are in the game, the more bugs will spawn, and the tougher they'll be. On top of that, there are enemies that'll punish players for not staying nearby the team, similar to the way Special Infected of Left 4 Dead fame do. Running off on your own means you could get pulled into the ceiling by a cave leech, dwarf napped by a Mactera grabber, or ambushed and cut off by a pack of Glyphids, and you'll have no backup to get you out of a deadly situation. It could also mean that your team can't get to you at all to try and revive you, but don't be surprised if they die trying themselves. After all,
leave no dwarf behind!
And at the end of the day, there isn't even a real reason to play selfishly. Any resources you collect and deposit get shared across the team. Even the stuff that isn't mission critical, stuff like gold, crafting materials, season progression items, the works. Cargo crates and lost gear will always give each player an item, provided they've not collected everything in their respective loot pools, and at the end of the mission, you can see how much you, and by extent everyone else, have earned from your hard work down in the caverns. You all earn the same experience, the same credits, and the same amount of loot. This stat screen here is the same across every player in the lobby, because ultimately, who had the most kills, the most minerals mined, the most downs, or the most revives doesn't matter. The team is rewarded equally for the mission they completed. Deep Rock Galactic, then again, is a game where everything is geared toward working together with other players, which makes it significantly easier to pick up that team-focused mindset and do what you can to benefit the team as a whole. So, why can't Halo players be more like Deep Rock Galactic players? The thing is, they can. But the typical Halo multiplayer design doesn't clearly encourage working together. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Scarcity of power items and stat chasing encourages players to make selfish decisions. Strong teamwork can be found in matches in spite of this, but it definitely doesn't seem to be the norm, and it usually requires someone to take the lead and try to organize everyone else. Even then, there's no guarantee that other players are going to listen. Can more be done to encourage better team play? Absolutely. There's always more room for improvement after all, though as it stands, I'm not 100% sure on what I'd say would be a good improvement, especially since I tend to have ideas that can be considered radical, and possibly antithetical to the Halo formula. If there's any interest, I might make a follow-up video to this where I go further in depth on how I'd encourage better team play in a Halo title, using the lessons I've learned from Deep Rock Galactic about making a team-centric game. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this little side project. I have a lot more stuff in the pipeline, but of course, until the next time, remember, keep your core strong and your eyes bright. Rock and stone, people, gaze out.